have one of the best, I mean best. She's going to be so uncomfortable that I called her one of the best bookkeepers in the area. But I deal with bookkeepers and accountants, CPAs all the time in my business. It's the number one question clients ask: do you have somebody that can help me with my bookkeeping? And we met about, 4 or 5 months ago, and I've just absolutely become such a major fan of Jackie. Jackie, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
So tell everybody your name and the name of your company.
My name is Jackie Smythe. I'm with Smythe Associates.
So what does Smythe Associates actually do?
Joe, we do anything with accounting, everything with accounting, except for taxes. We do everything from installing software, training individuals if they want to do the accounting, just general bookkeeping, a lot of cleanup work.
Yeah, I was going to say that's kind of how we met. You and I talked about that. There are so many clients that try and do it on their own, and then they get to a certain place in their business life with it, whether it's they meet a guy like me and they want to sell their business. Well, I can't really sell their business and market their business unless I understand the books. And it can't be just them that understands them, right? It has to be in this some type of a process that's sort of standard, and that a buyer can get comfortable that they actually know and understand, have some commonality to what the expenses are. And I can refer them to you, and you can actually help them do that. Whether it's a really large company or whether it's a small company, you can do it for both.
Numbers are all the same, just more zeros on the end.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that way when you're producing those numbers, but when you're counting them, it's all the same.
Right.
So talk to me a little bit, Jackie, about how you got into this business, because you understand most of the small business people that I know and meet and work with, they don't want to have anything to do with this part of the business. It's this evil necessity that they just have to deal with all of this. So how did you get into this?
Actually, Joe, I've gone full circle. When I started over 40 years ago out of college.
You don't look any older than, say, 29.
Well, thank you, Joe. Well, when I started out of college, I went to work for Burroughs Corporation in computer sales, and I had financial line of business. So I learned financial software. I trained individuals. I supported the financial software we were selling. So from there, I've owned a couple of businesses and was either the CFO or the CEO. And when I moved to this area about 9 years ago, I just fell into it. I had someone ask for my help, and it was just word of mouth from there.
Yeah, and then you said, "What? You'll pay me to do that?"
Yeah.
Because you're the kind of woman I know that you'll be more than happy to do this while you're watching a movie. It's like you enjoy this kind of stuff, don't you?
First thing in the morning, turn that computer on.
So let's talk about some of the other things that you do, because one of the things that I really like is that you can help a small business owner look to tomorrow. You can help them with budgeting and planning in a way that's not just numbers. It's you're sitting down with them, finding out what they're after, what they're trying to do, what they're trying to track, what they're trying to measure, and you can help them do that. Can you talk a little bit about that? So this whole budgeting process is so frustrating for small business people because it's looking forward, and we would say we're just guessing.
Right. We try to meet our clients' objectives as to what they need, whether they need to apply for a line of credit at a bank and go through the application process can be quite lengthy and detailed, whether they're getting ready for an insurance audit. That terrifies people in getting the numbers ready for the auditor, whether they're going to expand, looking for maybe an investor. You need to have clean numbers, good financials to present that are, not 450 different accounts, but concise accounts, fewer accounts, just easy to review your financials and get the overall picture.
So when you say clean numbers, what do you mean by that?
I'll tell you, Joe. Clean numbers. Look at your balance sheet. If you have a negative number in an asset, there's something wrong. If you see a negative number on a liability, you've maybe posted payments but haven't posted the expenses, so your expenses are understated.
And you bring up the next question I was going to ask, which is one of the things that you do so well, you understand their current financial position by looking at the data that they've given you. Can you help teach them how to understand and interpret the P&L balance sheet? Because you just said two things that I bet you half my clients would not know how to interpret.
Well, that's a big part of our business consulting, financial consulting, yes. You know, once you learn how to put your numbers together, then you need to understand them. You need to understand what a cash flow report is, your P&L, your balance sheet, et cetera. You just need to understand those and how that affects what your business is really doing.
Right. And so let's talk about something that I see you do for my clients, which is troubleshooting. So sometimes they have this problem and that they look at their P&L and their balance sheet and they say, I'll give it to you, but I don't know that it's right. So then I'll call you and say, help, fix this. Where do you start? I mean, how do you start with this? Looks like, I mean, it looks, a piece of paper looks clean, but the reality is I have no idea whether this information is accurate or not, and I have to have some comfort level before I can present it to a potential buyer.
Absolutely. First thing we try to enforce or highly recommend that you do a monthly process of reconciling your bank statement so you know you have all the expenses in there. So we are also able to go back, and we've gone back years and made sure all the expenses are in there and reconciled the statements. And then we go and, like I said, we look for the odd things, even if you have miscellaneous expense and you might have a figure in there of 40-some thousand, somebody just didn't know where to put it. So we just review the financials. We're able to, in financial softwares, because most accounting software is basically the same, and I've worked with over a dozen different accounting softwares, you can see the detail and you can get a good picture as to most of them are an input error or a procedure error.
Interesting. I'm curious. Can you do that with any industry, or is there certain industries that you know better than another?
Any industry, and I've worked with just about every industry out there, from medical industry to property management, real estate, insurance broker. I even have several attorneys.
Right. One of the things that I read that you do so well is work with QuickBooks. And I'll tell you why that's so important for small business people, because a lot of times our problem is knowing and understanding the software. And so when they work with somebody like you literally can help them through the actual software challenge itself, which can be a big deal, because that's how we really communicate, is through that software.
Right. And as you know, QuickBooks has about 80% of the small businesses in the country or in the world now. And so that prompted us to get our certification from Intuit as a QuickBooks Pro Advisor. And that has opened up a door for us for support and has given us tools to support the QuickBooks users.
Right. We're going to go to a break in just a minute. If somebody wanted to reach you, how could they reach you?
The best way is just to call me on my cell. If you Google Smythe Associates, I have my cell number there. We also have our email address.
Okay. One more time. How can they reach you? What's the best way to do that?
Okay, by phone, 704-763-4111.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you being here on the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe.